Hey, what's up, YouTube? It is Tiffany back again to drop some gems on y'all. Y'all know how we do. We are going to today. We're going to talk about contracts, and let me preface that by saying that I am not a lawyer. If you are seeking legal advice, hang up from this video. Well, not hang up, but get the point. And go look at the lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going to give you guys some tips and tricks, things that I've noticed in my journey that you might want to focus on when you're putting together your contract. And so first things first though, before I start talking too much, make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss it when I come with the heat. All right? So let's jump in. So these are just going to be a couple things, like I said, that I like to kind of highlight for you guys because they could be areas that you trip up on and you don't want any surprises or any kind of sticky situations with your clients when you're going out to do your events. So just going to highlight some of these things for you guys and give you some thoughts of, things that I try to do in my contract. Before we do that, I would say that if you haven't done this already, go ahead and look up. You can probably find this on Google really easy. Just look up a photo booth contract. There should be some online, some for purchase. I actually got mine through the vendor that I purchased my booth from, OrcaView. So that was great, and I just added a couple of things in there. But if you don't have that already, please make sure that you're working from an existing template that has already kind of been, reviewed and shown to be good to go. But just going to highlight these areas for you guys. So first area is terms and conditions. I always have language in there, a little snippet about liability and identification. Obviously, it's good to have insurance because if something were to happen while someone's on the booth, you just don't want to be held liable. But again, you want to have that language in your contract just to make sure you're covered if anything does happen, God forbid. And then also you want to discuss damage to your equipment. I don't know about you guys, but we have had some crazy people. Like after people have a few drinks, they are liable to do some wild things. We've had people run and jump on the booth while the arm was spinning. We've had people reach in and try to fix someone's collar while the arm's spinning. We've had people, doing a little bit too much dancing, if you get my drift, while they're on there. And so that's another plug for having booth rules because, like I said, once people have one too many drinks, they do some crazy things. So I always try to run through really quickly. It's probably easier to have these printed out. I don't have them printed out. I just run through a quick spiel with everyone who gets on the booth. I say, hey, please do not do anything too wild. Don't jump. Just move from the waist up. If you do it, and I always tell them the why. It's really important when you're talking to somebody and you tell them what not to do, that you give them the why. Else they'll do it. So I always say, if you do, your video is going to be shaky because the arm's going to move too much. And so they say, okay, I get it. So yes, I always like to have rules so people know when they're using the booth not to get too crazy because I'm not, I don't want broken or damaged equipment. So I do have a little line in my contract that talks about what would happen in the instance of damaged equipment. Again, God forbid. We haven't ran into that so far. We also have language there about venue access because it is very important. I found over the first couple of events, we were doing them outside, so I kind of like to know that beforehand. Some people like to charge more for that. And then also if your venue has stair access, because obviously 360 photo booth is very heavy. Most of the time it's me and my sister, me and my mom, and we're just not trying to carry it on 360. You know what I'm saying? So it's really important to know, hey, do you not have an elevator in your location? Because if that's the case, I might want to think about having a guy come with me just to help with carrying it. So that's also good to know. And I just actually added some language there. I added some check boxes onto the contract. It wasn't in the one that I received, but I did add that in there because I thought it was critical to know that, again, because you might need to adjust your pricing or just kind of make, some proper arrangements beforehand if there is not elevator access. The next thing, right to photos. I actually have some language in my contract that says that I will be able to use my my videos for social media marketing, right? Because there are some people who are very funny about their videos or pictures of themselves. Maybe they don't have social media, or maybe they just, are sensitive about it. So I do have language in there just so the client knows that, hey, this, all of this is fair game for me to be using for marketing purposes. And a lot of times they might be using it for marketing purposes as well. So usually I never have had anybody ask me about it, but again, just want to cover all your bases there. Then the next section would be payment. This is going to be one of the most critical areas, right? Because it's about the money, 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 money. That was a funny joke, sorry. So there's where I outline how much money this service is going to cost. I outline how much the deposit is. I outline when that's due. I outline when the balance is due. All of that is clearly there. I also talk about cancellation policy or change date policy. So essentially, if they were to cancel past X amount of days, this is non-refundable or this is what happens. You just want to have that clearly outlined because I did run into a client where it was kind of out of their control. So I was flexible and willing to work with them. But what happened was they were planning to have an event in the house that they were closing on. The closing date got pushed. And then the dates they wanted to reschedule in that month, it just didn't work out. I was going to be out of town. They were going to be out of town. We just couldn't get a new date. So we just decided, I said, hey, I'll refund you back the balance minus the deposit, and then we can just reschedule for another event you're having in the future. Again, I felt comfortable doing that because I knew the person, and you don't want to leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. So I agreed to do that, and I had that in my contract. They could see that I was being lenient. They asked me hey, could you send me the contract so I can make sure I'm within the confines of it? And at that point, I said, hey, no problem. Let me send that to you. This is what I plan to do. I plan to keep your deposit, and then once we reschedule, you can pay me the rest within 5 days of the next event that we're going to have because we couldn't agree on a date for this specific event. And, because that was clearly outlined, they read it, they said, yep, I understand. And I even explained to them, time is money. And so I had already made preparation. I'd completed the overlay. I'd done multiple things in preparation for this event. Sometimes I might have had an order or buy special props or just different things that you're doing in preparation for an event. And if someone cancels past the date in which you have in your event, it just kind of, it throws you off. You could have taken other events at that point. So it's really critical that you put some thought into, hey, what dates or what's my timeline looking like? If it's like after 14 days, no change dates, after 21 days, whatever you think is best for your business. But it is critical that you have that timeline in there so everyone knows. And then I also, when we're talking about the deposit, typically I do 150 deposit is due, and then I'll have the date, and then I'll have the balance is due within 5 days of your event. Again, whatever you want to have for your business, I recommend doing that. But I think it's really critical to even say this when you're having conversations with the client, because what I found is that you'd be surprised how many people don't even read the contract. I mean, if it's a business, they might, but if it's just a regular person, they might not. And so I did run in a situation where someone's like, oh, I thought the balance was due the day of the event. And I was like, no, let me show you the contract here. This is what it says. It's due within X amount of days. And so it's critical, when you're having a conversation with the client, I usually just go over that in my initial conversations. Like, hey, the 150 locks you on my calendar. The balance is due 5 days before the event. And that way I can say, I had the conversation with you and it's in the contract. Again, I try to avoid sticky situations and awkward conversations. So it just helps for me to say that on the phone. Then the next thing you want to think about is your overage rate. So some people might want to make that consistent with the rate that they're charging hourly anyway, or they might want to bump it up. We did run into a situation where we were on location and a client said, hey, I actually want another hour. And we were able to charge our rate that we normally charge, but that was in our contract, so it wasn't like a surprise, right? Had they went back and checked the contract and I gave them a different rate from what was in the contract, that would just be bad business. So again, that's something you got to spend a ton of time on, but just make sure when you're putting in there your rate, that it's either, I would say, at the rate you normally charge or above. In times past, I didn't put much thought into it, and I probably put like $75 down there. Thank God no one ever took me up on that offer because that's a horrible rate, but you live and you learn, right? So anyhow, that's something to think about. And then the last thing I'll mention, again, I'm not a lawyer. If you're seeking legal advice, please consult a lawyer. But I did get this advice while I was doing my research about contracts, and that was when you're signing a contract, sign on behalf of your LLC, which will require you to have already gotten your LLC, and so I'm hoping you have by the time you've gotten to this video. If you have not, make sure that you create your LLC through your state. And so when you're signing that contract, you're signing on behalf of your LLC. And the whole point behind that is obviously as an LLC, the point of that is to have a limited liability company, right? So it's to protect you from liability of anything that might happen with the company. So it's not a good idea to then go and sign your name and not sign on behalf of the company, essentially taking the risk of some liability that you're trying to avoid by having an LLC. So all that to say, long story short, is to sign on behalf of your LLC instead of signing just your name. So you can say your name on behalf of whatever your company is. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to stop here because I've talked way too much already. I'm over my time. But I hope that these tips were helpful for you guys. And as always, make sure that you like this video. Make sure you get down in the comments. If you guys have questions, if you have concerns, if you have new topics for me to cover, please do put those in the comments because I'm always looking for new things that obviously are going to be of value to you. I'm here to provide value, not to just talk, right? So with that said, I want to let you guys go, and I'll catch you on the next video.